How far are we here?
So have they done a good job? Well, a lot of people say yes.
This guy is not even really talking about gold. He's just talking about money. What's up, Mal?
Hello. Hello. First of all, I just want to say I think we've taken the idea that we can solve things with money, certain, human conditions with money, a bit too far. Like, it makes sense in certain trade contexts. Like, I have a lot of something and I want to figure out how to distribute that fairly, both for myself and others, sure. But like going back to like the local farmers context, I think, local farmers should exist to create abundance for their local community, not to make money. And I think the privatization of farming in general is where we went really wrong.
What do you mean with like the private? It's always kind of been privatized, right? Farming.
Right.
Or what do you mean, like when it became kind of where it's more unionized and controlled by it's difficult when you talk about farming specifically. I think you understand what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. There's a book called The Serviceberry by I can't remember the author's name, but I can find it real quick. Robin something, and they talk about something called a gift economy, and they base it around the idea that the serviceberry is this tree that year round provides services for all sorts of things, but it ultimately does it for no, like, the benefit it gets are more incidental than direct, right? And this is how I think we should have
Mm.
economies now is if I grow food and I distribute that food to the people who need it in my community, then they'll probably just be feel grateful enough to help me out. Maybe not every single person, but instead of trying to control that and control the knobs and wheels of the human condition and trying to get one for one returns on everything, it's more about I feel better if there's not people in my community who are starving, and if I need something, they're probably going to feel motivated to help me.
We all, I can tell you one thing. I understand in a way. So there's a flip side to this coin, right? With regards to the government's interplay with farms. Specifically, there's two: farms and water. Why? Fucking chaos if anything goes wrong there. That's why they're so heavily involved in it. Food and water is very important. If those two critical resources go, all the humans go, right? So that's why the government is so heavily involved with it,
Oh,
which
I
in a sense is good because you have to secure food, right? If you don't secure food, famine, we know what happened in Ireland, right? It's a fuck up if that happens. It's not like there's no more TVs. Everybody's fine if there's no more TVs or
hmm
iPhones. There's no more food or grain. You're fucked.
I agree.
Mm.
However, I will stipulate that government involvement doesn't necessarily mean that you can only grow and trade crops for cash. By the way, that book, The Serviceberry, just so everyone's listening can look it up if they want. It's by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and their last name is spelled Kimmerer. So, I would say like I get that importance, but I think a lot of those disasters that we're thinking of, like communism, there was a huge agricultural disaster that contributed to the famines and stuff like that. Partially
Yeah.
because they believed in something called Lysenkoism or Lamarckian evolution, which is basically, just to summarize it as simply as possible, the idea that if a giraffe stretches its neck out reaching for fruit, it'll pass that trait off to its offspring. But that's not how genetics works, by the way. And
Yeah,
so,
the Lamarckian evolution is highly contended, and there's not a lot of people that, uh, follow Lamarckian evolution.
oh yeah, no, it's been, as far as I'm concerned, thoroughly debunked. But in
Well,
terms,
there's people right now in science that are claiming even Charles Darwin was a Lamarckianist. So that's
yeah,
ridiculous.
but
I saw a
I wouldn't,
discussion.
I don't follow
Yeah,
Darwin, so it just depends on, I
yeah,
guess, what your scientific media diet is in that sense. What I do want to point out though is that we have a lot of understanding now of how like I know I'm focusing on wetlands, but like a wetland alone can generate power for you. It can generate the food you need. It can treat your wastewater and give you fresh drinkable water, and that takes care of all of it. And I know, like, it sounds scary. Like, what if that becomes destabilized? I think a lot of those things used to happen because we didn't have the fundamental concepts grasped like we
Well,
do
you can
now.
maintain these things, right? The interesting thing about about these biological systems, right, like wetlands or any of these, right? They
Hmm.
kind of act. It's interesting. It's something that I've brought up in evolution arguments too with the planet, right? We have the mycelium that acts as basically the cleaning source for the. It breaks down everything. It cleans
Well,
everything.
okay, so it's more than just. I just want to be very accurate with this. It's more than just mycelium, by the way. It's we typically call them biofilms. It's a whole microbial
Yeah.
community, partially involving
Yes.
mycelium, but also lots of bacteria, prokaryotes, archaea,
Yes,
and
no,
so
the
forth.
bacteria, no, everything. But what I mean is, in that instance, is if you create, if in proper environments, right, the environment is quite good at dealing with these things. Like you were saying now, right, we have new technologies and we have a greater understanding of how these ecosystems interplay with certain organisms. So if you create these environments correctly with the right plants, the even at a bio level, the right bacteria, the mycelium, and then larger animals, most of these things will kind of be able to clean themselves out in essence. Like you said, it
Right.
cleans the wastewater, all of that, right?
We often refer to these services as ecosystem services, by the way, and it's
Yeah.
often well understood that once you remove like an ecosystem and its services, you can build as many factories or industries as you want to replace those services, but we'll never get back what they provided in the density of land and the cost effectiveness, which was basically free, right? So it's basically a waste of money for us to destroy ecosystems. Here in southern Ontario, we've done that a lot. We've destroyed a lot of wetlands to replace it with farmers' fields and stuff. You can see on satellite imagery the way that the water drains into basins where the wetlands would have been and how they would have had to have drained those fields to convert them from wetlands to fields. So it's a really interesting study. Which is why what first motivated me to try talking to farmers, but then I talked to about three and I realized this is kind of over my head with convincing farmers to do this. But
Yeah. Now William has already hit you with a mute, Mel.
I guess I thought this was a great convo,
I
but
guess.
that's 5 minutes,
No,
right?
it is. No, I'm appreciating the convo. Plus, you're the only one that's jumped up out of everybody. You're the only one that's jumped up, so I appreciate that. But
I'm not
fucking,
afraid to be called an
we follow
idiot.
the rules. I know. But let's honor William's mute. So I'm gonna give you 5. All right.
Okay, okay.
So just check on yours for 5,
Hmm.
and then we'll carry on with the video here. But yeah, we'll carry on the conversation when the mute's over. Let's see what this fucking guy's gonna
People from the
say.
Fed would say, look, we've done a great job. The Federal Reserve is better than putting this into a private market like we had before the Fed.
That being able to create new money in the economy helped us recover relatively quickly.
Sorry if
in
y'all are having
2008
trouble hearing me.
or during COVID.
By the way, thank you,
Chat.
William. First donation, or no. Well, technically, David
I'm still
James Flood
working.
with the
I'm
membership was the
working
first.
on
But,
fine tuning
first
the
super chat of
audio.
the night. Thank you, William. I appreciate that. And what I'm gonna do is I don't like the panel stuff. Don't usually, there's not a lot of donations on the panel stuff. So what I'll do is, for tonight, I'll add. I mean, we can't actually, because I want to say I want to add it to the donations, but yeah, we can't really do that. Yeah, okay. We're just gonna carry on with the video. I can't add that to the extension because if it's for actions, we can't add them.
But a lot of people say no, that the Fed does a terrible job.
But I think the evidence says that actually
Thank you.
they've not done very good. The Fed basically caused the Great Depression.
That inflation is out of control and that the people running it are never faced with the consequences for not doing a good job. Several economists I talk to think that it's a lot of power to put in a government agency that isn't incentivized by the free market. But most monetary economists, the people who study this stuff, like the vast majority, think that, hey, the Fed's not perfect, doesn't get it right all the time, but like this is the best version of a modern complex economy and it generally works.
What you described as the Fed has made some mistakes, but we can't imagine living without it, that's probably 90% of the econ profession, or maybe higher. But everybody now has grown up in a world where it's hard to imagine what things would look like without the Fed. And it's especially hard to imagine once you're on a fiat money standard. If you're on a fiat money standard, somebody has to control the quantity of fiat money. And if it's not a central bank, how do you do that?
I'm actually not going to have an opinion on this. I'm still kind of making up my mind.
Okay.
So let's wind this video down by getting back to the central question.
Yeah,
at the
fuck.
beginning
I thought we were
that
talking
started
about
with,
gold,
which is,
bro.
why are people buying gold again?
No,
How does this
I thought we were gonna talk about gold. You just talking about money. You should retitle this stream, brother. Why is it like this isn't even about gold, my dude. This is about money that you're talking about right now.
happening?
The price of gold is near an all-time high.
Have you seen the price of gold lately?
Gold is up more than 13% this year.
So since we've gone totally off the gold standard since 1971, and in fact, even before that, people have started holding gold as a hedge against inflation.
Despite all of these mental leaps and these vast abstractions of economic
Thanks, Will. I appreciate the support, my dude. You're on the mute train today, man. I appreciate the support, though, William. Thank you, dude.
value, here we are, turning back to gold. First off, foreign governments never got rid of their gold. The US still has huge stores of thousands and thousands of tons of gold in Fort Knox and other facilities. And so do a lot of other countries. A lot of countries store their gold in the United States, in New York City, in this gold reserve that is buried like 50 feet into the bedrock of Manhattan. And it just sort of sits there, gathering dust and being a little reserve, a just in case type of thing. But a lot of regular people, investors, buy gold too, whenever they start to feel a little bit sketchy about the big psychological bargain they've made with the government. All of this is pretty, actually, kind of squishy. It's very mental. All of this requires us to believe, but over here really requires us to believe and even trust the US government and an economy. And recently, that trust has been waning. America has rival nations that are trying to get the world to stop trusting the dollar. They want to replace it. They don't like how much leverage it gives the US. The US economy and government have also been kind of all over the place recently. The stop and go of tariffs from the Trump administration's first few months in office got people really spooked. Like, can we trust these people with our entire sense of value in our currency? And now that Trump is attacking the Fed and threatening to control it, people are turning to gold in a bigger and bigger way. And at least for now, while I'm recording this, there seems to be some trepidation about people believing in the dollar. So that's why you see this kind of going back in time on the psychological leaps.
In the last few months,
Okay.
well, since the start of the Trump administration, there's been a loss of faith in the dollar vis-a-vis other fiat currencies. People are worried inflation may go up either because of real shocks like the imposition of tariffs.
So people are rushing to other stores of value that don't rely on a central government. The shiny metal, gold, is one of them, but there's another currency that people are opting for
that's
that
what
kind of looks a little bit like gold, at least mentally.
Bitcoin is essentially the new gold.
It's becoming really the true digital gold.
I think a lot of young people are comfortable with
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier, man, is that they keep finding gold veins under the ground, but they were saying at the start of this that the gold comes from a fucking meteorite, and I mean, dude, I don't know if these guys did any research on mining or any of that I mean, the claim that it came from a meteorite, as that is the conclusion where it came from. I mean, dude, I'm pretty sure it's formed like everything else in the earth itself, whether it's crude oil, diamonds, crystals, all of these things get formed inside the earth. It's not been just fucking splooged out, just bukkakied all over the planet. I don't know about that, bro.
assets and digital currencies and would switch over to Bitcoin or something different. Either one of those things would provide a check on the Federal Reserve, because people would have an alternative, and the Fed would know that if they created too much of inflation, people would switch over.
Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
Now we on
represent
Bitcoin on a
future
gold
path
fucking
for
video?
this psychological journey of money that we've seen here, but it seems to be too early to tell. But it does seem like we are entering a new chapter on this journey of our sense of value and currency and trust and belief. I'm not sure what it's going to look like. I don't presume to know, but as we've seen in this story, I think it's a pretty good guess that no matter what happens next, no
I
matter
need
what we
something to
invent
do when I'm
with
muted like
crypto
this.
or whatever, that
Any
shiny
ideas,
metal,
chat?
that thing that has fascinated us for thousands of years, the thing that can be divided and stored and doesn't tarnish and that shines like the sun, gold, I think, will always remain in the background as this thing that we turn to when things feel uncertain.
I want to give you a dislike on your video because you barely spoke about gold. You spoke about the economics and not even of just gold purely, about everything else. Okay, my dude, that's not helpful right there. See, now I gotta cleanse my palate to something better. It's just nonsense. I mean, seeing as we're on metals, let's just carry on with the metals then for now.
In a museum vault, there is an iron axe head forged in the year 1200, 800 years old. Pick it up, examine the blade. The surface shows a dark patina, but the metal underneath? Solid, strong. No deep pitting, no structural decay. Now walk outside to your garden shed. There is a steel axe you bought 2 years ago. The head is already spotted with orange rust. In 5 years it will be so corroded you will throw it away.
Yes.
How is this possible? How can something made with primitive tools in a clay furnace outlast precision-engineered modern steel by centuries? The answer is not magic. It is chemistry, accident, and a lost understanding of iron that we sacrificed for convenience. Before we dive into this forgotten science, type built to last
Well, it's
in the
not. It's not just that, right? We transitioned from using iron to steel. That's the main thing. Working iron has become something that's become less needed in modern society, and the switch has become to steel, and then obviously stainless steel because of its defense against things like rusting and stuff, right? So it's just kind of more advancement and abandoning the old materials that we used to give preference to.
If you believe we have lost something valuable in our race for cheap, disposable tools. I want to know, does this resonate with you? Drop that comment now. Section 1. The modern rust problem. To understand why medieval iron resisted rust, we must first understand what modern steel really is. When you buy a tool today, you are getting what metallurgists call mild steel. It contains roughly 0.25% carbon, 0 slag, 0 phosphorus. We call this progress. Medieval wrought iron was fundamentally different. It contained only 0.05% carbon, but up to 2% slag, those glassy impurities left over from smelting. It also contained phosphorus.
I don't know.
I'm
if
dropping
we,
a
if
lot
we
of
watched
frames
that
out of nowhere.
On stream, the guy that's the metal worker,
So
and he was using
I'm
the
going to
wrought
restart the
iron
stream
and the
and try to